Now, why would you want to? Not everybody would, but for those of you out there who say things like, I like the idea of RC, of homeschooling this way, but, and then insert X, Y, and Z, we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z and how you can incorporate it, you can balance it, you can modernize it a bit without compromising on the integrity, on the scope, the vision of this self-teaching methodology. So let's get started. And I do want to give a little disclaimer here. Please forgive me, be patient with me, because I recently just got 2 new teeth in the back and I'm having a very hard time talking with them. I don't know if I'm just not used to them or they're placed incorrectly. It's something that I never talk about on this channel really, but I've had horrible teeth problems ever since I was a teenager. It's not letting up. This is where I'm at, and I started the process last year, and then I had to wait until my insurance reset so it wouldn't be as expensive getting the 2 new teeth put in. So bear with me because I'm finding it difficult to speak sometimes. All right, so let's jump in with reading first of all. Okay, so the Robinson curriculum is made up of this really wonderful book list. It increases in difficulty. Majority of the books are in the public domain. And because of that, when you purchase the curriculum, you get all of the PDF files that you then are supposed to print out at home and bind and make your own books. Some of my most popular videos on this channel have to do with just that, printing and binding. I think it's more with another audience, printing their fan fiction and things like that, which hey, I'm all for it. Write something, print it out. That's great. But I understand that busy parents with a lot of kids, a lot going on, maybe they don't have the printer, they don't have the space. So I want to talk to you about a couple options here. And I'm going to also talk about the actual book list versus, adding in other titles, modern books, etc. But first, let's address the actual reading of the books. Now, there is an alternative. If you want to modernize it, you can put them on an e-reader. This is my Kindle. It's dead right now. This is a Barnes & Noble Nook. I cannot believe that this is still charged. This lasts forever, months even, okay? Now, I have a video tutorial on the Barnes & Noble Nook that is no longer sold, but you can find some super cheap on eBay for like 20 bucks. And I have a little hack video how you can hack it. So it's basically just a shell. There's no internet access. You cannot connect to the Barnes & Noble store. You can just add books to it via your computer, and that's it. Now, there is a link I can share with you down below of another homeschooling dad who has independently, he's not taking the files from RC and doing this, independently has sourced the actual files that need to go on an e-reader, the whole RC book list. And so you can just make that one-time purchase and you'll have all of those files. Now, you can't, this is why it's important, you can't take the PDFs that you get from RC and put that on your e-reader. It doesn't work like that. You need a very different specific file. And in fact, this link that I have for you down below, he offers 2 different formats. There's one for Kindle and there's one for everything else. So with the Nook, any Android type of thing, whatever, you would use that other. But if you have a Kindle, you'd have to buy that specific file for Kindle. So I just want you to be aware of that. But now let's talk about pros and cons of going this way. Pros, talk about modernizing things. Everything is in one little e-reader, hundreds of books, done. You don't have to print anything, bind anything. It doesn't take up any space. You can take this on the go. It's got a lot of pros, but there's also cons. And I'm going to share with you, based on my research, the biggest con with this. And that is that it does affect reading comprehension. Now, I know people want to sometimes argue with me on this, that it doesn't. Maybe not for older, well-disciplined adults who have lots of practice experience reading. But for younger kids who are getting that practice, who are just kind of new to reading, it can be especially challenging. And here's why. Here's the biggest takeaway. When you have a Kindle or a Fire tablet or anything like that, there's, of course, lots of distractions. There's notifications, there's other apps, there's the internet access. So you can go off in a million directions. That's one thing there. But aside from that, even if you have this which is just a shell with the books. No internet connection, no notifications. Even this can affect reading comprehension. Why? Here's why. Because your brain, when reading in this format, is constantly making little micro decisions. Maybe you're not even aware fully, but your subconscious, you're making these little decisions, such as, do I enlarge the font? Do I highlight here? Do I bookmark here? Do I know what this word means? Should I hit it and select the word definition function? But even just things like that. Should I enlarge? Should I make it smaller? What percentage am I on, finishing the book? Because it's not like a real book that you can feel how much you have left. Even those little micro decisions do affect your reading comprehension. So that's, in my opinion, the biggest setback, the biggest negative. Now, if for you the pro outweighs that con, the pro of you don't have any other option, you can't really print or bind the books, etc., then I can see why you would go this route. But just keep that in mind. They really need to be strong, fluent readers, and even then, still it affects their reading comprehension. Now, here are two other alternatives if you don't want to do the book binding at home, but you don't want to go this route. Number one, you could buy the reprints. Now, it's a jungle out there when it comes to the reprints. However, there is one brand that I trust and recommend wholeheartedly. They are also a homeschooling family, very familiar with the Robinson curriculum, and it's called New West Press. And their reprints are absolutely beautiful. They are not like most reprints you find on Amazon that it's obvious they just took the public domain file and put it in a book. They actually reformat everything, make it look really pretty. You get to choose your binding. Do you want hard? Do you want soft? Sometimes they even have other options. And it looks really nice on your library shelves, right? So there's that option. Number two, a really affordable way to go with this is self-publishing. Now, I know some people tried maybe to go to Office or Staples or a place like that, and they might get a hard time about the copyright, even though it's in the public domain. But you could use online publishers such as Lulu, which is a place that I print all of my homeschool support products. You can go to lulu.com, upload the PDF, design your own basic cover. You can use their software, and ta-da, done for a few bucks. Now, you'll pay maybe a little shipping to get it sent to you, but it's still very, very affordable. And you create your own line of reprints at home. So those are my two recommendations. If you don't want to print and bind at home, New West Press or lulu.com, and just upload the PDF and make the book yourself. And that's it. When I read the course of study, I see a family that was kind of just winging it a little bit in those early days, just reading what was in their library, reading a couple hours every day. It wasn't until later that they put together this book list because they knew families, people will want that list. What do they read? What do they read next? They're not familiar with these titles. They can't find those book titles. So that was the perfect solution to create this list for parents that increase in difficulty. They did all the hard work and give you the PDF files. But look, today in 2022, are we really going to say that there are no great books published in the last couple decades? No, right? There are some great books out there as well, but they're not in the public domain yet. So that's why you're not really going to see them in something like the Robinson curriculum, but it doesn't mean that those books are off limits or that you can't add them into your book list, okay? So you can balance it. You can add the books that you want to add. Not everybody is homeschooling in America. A large majority of people watching this channel are actually from Australia, from India, from different countries. So do they really want to spend all that time on American history? This is a stumbling block for them. They think, well, this is just an American curriculum. I can't use this. So that's what I want to challenge you to think about. And yes, it's fine. You can add in. And I would even go as far to say, and some people might not like me saying this, but in the early years when they're first starting their academic journey and reading, is it really going to make and break things if they read Who Was George Washington instead of the R.C. book list, The Life of George Washington by Josephine Pollard? Yes, this book is a better book on many different levels. But if it were to come down to a kid that maybe has some difficulty reading, they're not really excited about reading or excited about homeschooling, and this gets them excited about reading, and this they dread and they hate reading time, I'm going to choose this because they're still so early on in their academic journey, and I want them to love to read because I want them to be lifelong learners and independent thinkers. And in general, I just want them to love reading. So this helps my vision. This, not so much, even though this is on maybe my goal list, right? Like do the Robinson curriculum, and we end up with lifelong learners. I don't have to be so rigid that I just think I have to stick to this list to get that end result. This could also get me to that end result because they're going to enjoy reading. They're going to enjoy reading these books. I've heard from many parents who say that their kids weren't really interested in reading, and then they started reading these Who Was books, and they took off. Now, am I going to only let them read these books, right? You don't have to go to extremes either. You can balance the two book lists. So just keep that in mind. But guess what? If they start off with this, they're still going to end up reading books like this in high school that are also on the book list, right? The Washington Irving books, George Washington biographies. But I think they might have a better chance at reading something like this later on if they really enjoy reading early on, even if it's books like this. But then, they'll read harder books as they go on versus just making them and forcing them read something like this because that's the plan, and I'm going to be really strict and rigid with it. Do you know what I'm doing? I hope I'm making myself clear here. Is it really going to make or break things if they read the Anne of Green Gables series instead of the Rover Boy books? No. What about books like Black Beauty or the classic Star books? My 8-year-old, he read this one, Around the World in 80 Days. This is a retold, but you know what? I'm impressed that even at 8 years old, he wanted to read this and he read through it. For my girls, I want them to read Beautiful Girlhood, How to Win Friends and Influence People for teen girls. The Tuttle Twins, they have great books. Inspiring Entrepreneurs, Courageous Heroes. And yes, when it comes to fiction, I'll even allow something like this, Minecraft, The Lost Journals, because, I see my kids read through these, and it's a good sized book with no pictures. They will devour this in a couple of days. And I'm glad that they're reading. I'm glad that they're really enjoying reading. I find so much joy in life through books, through words. And that would just be so wonderful for me to know that my kids, no matter what life throws at them, that they can always find enjoyment through books as well. So to recap, you can do e-readers. There's pros and cons. It does affect reading comprehension. Number 2, alternatives for printing them are to buy the reprints at New West Press, for example, or having them published with lulu.com. You do the self-publishing. And I have a video on that as well that I will link down below. And as far as the books, do you have to just stick to the RC book list? Could you never add in anything modern? No, of course not. There are a lot of great books out there. You can create the list and make it your own, taking into consideration maybe what your kids are interested in, but you just want to have a pretty good balance, just like you would with your diet. You wouldn't only let them eat ice cream. You don't want them to only read graphic novels. But there's so many choices out there for every category, for every genre, that you can pick something that you will be happy with and your kids will enjoy. All right, now let's talk about the writing. The writing program is they just write every day, at least a page, front and back, double spaced, and then you give the corrections or you give them feedback, and then they'll fix it before they move on to a new writing assignment the next day. They don't start off that way now when they're 6, 7 years old. You build up to that. They build up to that. I love this about RC. I would not want to change too much because just let them write about whatever they want to write about. because it just really shows you what's in their heart. You're able to catch a lot of problems, a lot of character issues, things bothering them. They write really funny stories. They're very creative. I love the writing portion of this. Up until the age of 10, it's perfectly fine for them as well to do copy work, because it will model for them great grammar, great spelling, because that's one of the things, one of the objections that parents may have. There's no formal writing program. As far as grammar and spelling, there is a resource called Professor K Grammar, and there's a Professor K Spelling, but that's basically just a giant word list with rules, and you could go through one at a time. As well as the grammar, I know some parents kind of have a hard time with it. It's old-fashioned. There's two parts in it that could be a little confusing, the primer part and the regular part, but it's a solid program. So I'm going to share with you some of my best tips to help this process along, incorporating some newer things without compromising the integrity of what it is we're trying to do. We want them to be great writers, to enjoy writing, to be able to express themselves. When it comes to spelling, which is probably the thing that parents most can be alarmed of when they see their kids spelling, having them look up words in the dictionary like this is obviously very overwhelming. So my favorite resource for this is this kind of a spelling dictionary. Okay, this is Beginners Volume 1, and then this is Volume 2. Now, why this is so fantastic is because this is the A. I don't know if you can see it here. This is A, and it's only using words that kids are probably using on their essays. So you're not gonna have this whole dictionary full. You're just gonna have the words that kids just frequently use, and it's very easy for them to find. If they know the first letter of the word, they will be able to look it up and find it. So like I said, the beginner's book, this is great for when they start writing and they want to write their own stories. Have them just, hey, do you know the first sound, the first letter? Then you can look in here and see how it's spelled. And then for book 2, obviously it's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit more words. Now I've only found 1 and 2. I don't know if there's a book 3 out there, but I think this is sufficient. Book 1 and 2, because as they're practicing writing every day and using a resource like this and maybe keeping note of their own frequently misspelled words, I've shared some tips for that as well. Along with them reading every day, reading great books, their spelling is going to improve. It's going to get better. This will help as a little band-aid, especially in the early years as they're doing copy work, as they're getting practice and writing every day, to be able to spell words correctly. There are also other great modern grammar programs. I really like Sherry Hayes' Gentle Grammar. They could do this independently on their own. Maybe there's some kind of dictation parts, but they can skip. But for the most part, this can be self-guided. They can do this on their own. Now, let's talk about math, because that's a big one too. The whole, just memorizing all their math facts and then moving on to Section 54. It just doesn't jive well with some parents. So just to give you a couple tips how you can modernize it a little bit, and I talked about this in the last video, is, start off with counting. I use Razor Arithmetic in my RC course for littles to learn how to read the numbers, how to write the numbers, how to make sure they're great with number recognition, all of those things, and then moving on to memorizing math facts. There's flashcards that come with RC, but if flashcards really aren't your kids' thing, like you're really just having a hard time with it and you're not progressing, then something that I mentioned in a video, the last prior video I think it was, that sometimes you just have to move on. And so what I would recommend is go ahead and use a math worksheet focusing on math facts, and they can do that, a timed drill thing, and then work on memorizing math facts, and then just start a Section 54 lesson. It starts off really easy with just adding. It doesn't get into multiplication until I think lesson 25. But another kind of modern way that they can memorize their math facts without using flashcards are these number wrap-ups. Now, I got this tip from Nancy Larson. She said this is one of the best ways for kids to memorize their math facts, and I agree. And this could be done independently. You don't have to sit there with them, and they will just wrap up, and it's using their hands. So all those things connecting really helps with retention, memorization. So they'll just wrap them, and then they can turn it, and see if they were correct. They'll see if there's a line and indentation there and they didn't put the string there, they made a mistake. And so something that you can do is maybe one day they do the whole addition key, one day they do the whole subtraction key. And then when it comes to multiplication or division, it's a little tougher, maybe just 5 keys a day. And if you really want something even more modern than that, or you're in a state that is really strict and requiring you to use some kind of curriculum, then you can put down Saxon K first, Saxon 1, 2, and 3, and don't worry about doing everything in the teacher's manual. In fact, I don't even think you need the teacher's manual. Just get the worksheets, and those are very affordable. Just get the part 1, part 2 worksheets and let the kids go through that. There's also math fact drills within those, so you will get that, plus a few other things like rounding, count sequence, a little bit of division. They're like dividing shapes in half and different things like that, as well as just math fact drills. So you'll get both with those Saxon worksheets. But this is something they can still pretty much do on their own. Even as they're still learning how to read, they can pretty much do this on their own. So you don't need a teacher's manual. You don't need answer key. You'll be fine. So if you really want to modernize it, you could do some of the just worksheets for the Saxon workbooks, or any kind of other just worksheet curriculum. Not too intensive. Just keep it simple. We're just trying to memorize the math facts here. And you can use something like wrap-ups to make it a little bit more engaging and fun for the kids. But still, it's not like they're watching cartoons or anything like that. They're just memorizing math facts. It's just another way to do them. All right, tip number 4, how to modernize RC is, okay, what about geography? That's a big one, right? Geography. Well, this is something they can do on their own, and it's draw the world, draw the USA. They have draw all the continents, and why not just have them work on maybe once a week, whatever you want to do, once or twice a week, them working on memorizing, drawing the USA from memory, working on it every day. You can also use placemats and put those, at the table. Just something like that they're doing on their own really works. And again, it's not something that you're adding to or compromising the integrity of RC or adding all these other subjects. They're just drawing the world, drawing the USA. And you can put it down on your transcript if you need to put something down for geography. Easy peasy without going into this whole other curriculum. Same thing for art. Tip number 5. There's also these drawing art things, and it goes step by step, and it tells them about, the different drawing styles like Spanish colonial art or the art of Gilbert Stuart, different things like that. They can do this completely on their own. Even in the younger years, something like Draw Right Now, it gives them a step-by-step on how to draw something, as well as some copy work that could double as their copy work in the very early stages as well. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate each and every view, like, and comment. It really helps me to be more visible on YouTube, and so I really appreciate it. Thank you for helping me with my mission to make homeschooling more sustainable for families. And until the next video, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you'd like to connect with me live, I invite you to join me over at my private membership site called The Schoolhouse. There you will have access to all of my courses, RC Course for Littles, Sustainable Homeschooling 101, and How to Run Your Home Like a Franchise. You will also have access to weekly private YouTube lives where I can answer all of your questions in real time or that you previously submitted, and you can always watch the replays. It's only $15 a month and you can cancel anytime, so I hope to see you there. Talk to you soon.